So
Wow.
yeah, I was more, I remained far more interested in this, the bigger, deeper questions and ranging across all different topics. And of course, going into science writing and editing, that allowed me to do that more.
Yeah. So you really are an example of your book's title, Be Who You Want. And you figured out after a long course of study, this is not who I want to be.
Yeah, to a
Trying to,
degree. Yeah, to an extent.
yeah,
Yeah, there's some truth in that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so, what motivated this particular book? You've written about various subjects. What motivated this particular book at this particular time?
Well, my book before this one, I had gone very much back into kind of neuroscience,
Okay.
harder kind of brain science. So that was about brain myths. Um, and that was in contrast to my kind of day job, which was at the British Psychological Society, writing about new psychology findings, including a lot of personality research. And over the years, I so I've done a lot of writing for the public about psychology, and I suppose a lot of the time a question that kept cropping up really was how much can we change deep down?
Yeah.
Like, do these different psychological techniques and interventions and therapy and so on, do they really lead to lasting change, or is it more superficial?
Yeah. That's
And
such a
so,
great question because I know
yeah.
that's been a question, maybe one of the perennial questions. At least when I was in school, people were still asking that question. Maybe it's decided now. Uh, does anybody really change? And when you look at your friends, sometimes you say, well, this person went to this workshop and they said they're totally everything, but then knowing them as I do, go, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. So I was very drawn to that. I often would end up coming back to that question when I was writing about psychology, and then deciding on what shall I write a book about next. I thought, why don't I try and tackle that question? And
Yeah.
I think I had a kind of a personal interest as well. I I've never really liked personally being kind of labeled as a particular type,
Mm-hmm.
and then people assuming, oh, because you're an introvert, let's say, you won't want to do X or Y,
Right.
or maybe you won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
And so I guess I sort of wanted personally to explore it from that perspective as well, on behalf of anyone who doesn't like being pigeonholed or boxed in by the assumptions people make about them.
Yeah, well,
So,
you're a
so
perfect guest, I think, for this show and for my audience because I have the impression that a lot of the people who tune in to this show maybe
yeah.
also share some of those feelings.